Welcome to the Box Score Sports Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Box Score Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan. On today's episode, we are going to do our Week 12 NFL Tuesday takeaways. We're going to go over every game and a takeaway I took from every game, whether it's important or not. I'll let you guys decide. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel and like the video, especially if you just like to listen to people talk about basketball or football. If you want to hear people who think they know what they're talking about, like myself, just go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We'd appreciate it greatly. Now we're going to try to do this in 10 minutes or less. And in the comment section down below, just let me know what your Tuesday takeaway was. What was your biggest takeaway of the NFL weekend? We're going to go through every game, so let's get into it right now. So let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers losing to the Cleveland Browns Thursday night. It seems like forever ago, by the way, and I had to be like, okay, I watched the game. What exactly happened? I remember Jameis Winston had that touchdown. I remember like thinking to myself, man, it's fun to watch Jameis Winston just because of the energy he brings onto the football field. What takeaway here? Pittsburgh was the better team. They had more yardage. They had the most time, more time of possession. They won the turnover battle. They won the third down efficiency battle, and they still lost the game, which is crazy. 24-19. I think my biggest takeaway is what we've already have known, which is that Thursday night football is crazy. Division rivalries are crazy. When you put those two together, craziness ensues, and then you had snow as well. So all four of those were contributing factors to this loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Great win by Cleveland, and it was kind of like I feel like they're Super Bowl. So Cleveland beating Pittsburgh there. Sunday, let's get into our Sunday games. Minnesota Vikings beat the Chicago Bears 30-27. The offense for the Minnesota Vikings, whether it was Addison, Hawkinson, Sam Darnold, they all looked pretty good. Right? They look solid. Aaron Jones had over 100 yards of rushing. The defense kind of did not look that great. They allowed the Bears to score 27 points. Williams had another pretty solid outing. He seems to be growing and maturing. 340 yards, 2 touchdowns with the 77.4 QBR. They need to find a way to fix their special teams. Another block field goal. And who knows, we can speculate and say, well, if the special teams perform better, that the Bears would have won that game. You just can't have your special teams constantly worried about whether or not that a field goal is going to be blocked, because I think that this is the second week in a row, and then the third one, the game tying field goal, was almost blocked as well, right up the middle. So that was my takeaway for that game. The Detroit Lions beat the Indianapolis Colts 24-6. There's two things I kind of took away. Number one, the Colts defense is pretty solid, and that team is a very physical team. If Anthony Richardson can figure it out by next season, I think the Colts are going to be a pretty interesting team to watch moving forward. With that said, Richardson, his balls are all over the field. He'll throw like dimes, and then he'll throw like way off. And so that's where we're at with Anthony and Richardson. And as somebody who backs the Detroit Lions, the one thing that I learned is, man, when you have a team that's really good and ready for the playoffs, you just want the playoffs to come, because every time somebody was down, whether it was Decker or Khalif Raymond or Montgomery, every time someone went down, you're just holding your breath because you want to get to the playoffs healthy. So not a fun place to be in, I'll tell you that. Also, no sacks for the Detroit Lions. I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem. I understand like Richardson's hard to take down. There was a couple of opportunities for the Lions, but they got to find a way to generate pass rush if they're going to get to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, get to the Super Bowl. The Miami Dolphins beat the New England Patriots 34-15. Tua makes the offense runs. That's what I have. Like, he was 29 of 40, 317 yards and 4 touchdowns. Waddle had himself a game, 144 yards, a touchdown off of 8 receptions. They have an opportunity to get to the playoffs as long as their offense keeps ticking. They have a big Thursday night game coming up this week on Thanksgiving, so we'll see how he responds. I mean, the team responds to that in cold weather. And by the way, I will be there, so we'll see how that goes. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers thrashed the New York Giants 30-7. I guess Daniel Jones wasn't necessarily the problem. You just kind of have a bad roster. Danny DeVito was not the spark that lit the flame that helped this team get to the get a victory or look different. Baker Mayfield, fun guy to watch play football. I mean, he was doing the DeVito stuff, but then there was that one play where I believe I don't remember who it was, but I feel like it was Irving. Like they had a run that was all the way downfield, like 40 yards downfield, and you saw Baker trying to block and lead him downfield, 40 yards downfield. That is a fun quarterback to play for. Irving, 12 carries, 87 yards, and a TD. The Washington Commanders lose to the Dallas Cowboys 34-26, despite the Cinderella-ness of the I don't know if that's a word. Cinderella-ness of the Commanders, where they had that Hail Mary. Well, they had some in this game, the 86-yard touchdown from McLaurin from Daniels, and you just thought, okay, here we go again. The Commanders are going to find a way, but they ended up not. Here's what I think is the big takeaway for Washington, though. 22, 28, 26, 34. Those were the last four games. Points allowed by their defense, 22, 28, 26, 34. I think the defense finally teams caught up to the defenses. The scheme is no longer going to outweigh the talent that's on the roster, so to speak. So their defense has not been great the last couple of weeks, and the offense has been good. It needs some help from the other side of the ball, and it seems like the Washington is the team that starts out hot, and now they're going to kind of go back to the mean, but they still could get to the playoffs. They are 7-5 right now. The Carolina Panthers lose to the Kansas City Chiefs 30-27. I kind of refuse to take anything away for the Kansas City Chiefs until the playoffs come. They just remind me, and I said this in my last video, but like the LeBron James Cavaliers when the Eastern Conference wasn't that great in the mid 2010s, like they're just playing, trying to get to the playoffs, and then we'll see stuff from them in the playoffs. That's how I feel about the Chiefs. But on the Carolina side, Bryce Young, he was impressive. Like I felt like, he was 21 of 35, 263 yards and one touchdown. But there was some throws he made that I thought were impressive, like getting hit, making passes, seeing the field better. And he didn't make that big mistake. So Bryce Young, there's some life from him, and Panther fans have to be a little bit excited about that. The Tennessee Titans, maybe this is the upset of the day. They beat the Houston Texans 32-27. Levis looked solid. He looked solid. He was sacked 8 times, and obviously he had that one really dumb interception that went for a touchdown. But he was constantly under pressure, but he was still, and sometimes because he held the ball too long. But 18 of 24, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns for Will Levis. And as far as Houston goes, maybe another offseason, but as of right now, I wouldn't say that they are true contenders. Nico Collins makes that offense run it makes it more explosive. I think Houston's happy to have them back. But despite getting 8 sacks, the defense still allowed 32 points. The Denver Broncos 29, the Vegas Raiders 19. The Sutton Knicks connection is the takeaway I have for this game. 8 receptions, 97 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It seems like the trust there is growing, and that could be good for both Sutton and Knicks and the Denver Broncos. And the Broncos, I think, are going to be a feisty team even into the playoffs because their defense is pretty solid as well. The San Francisco 49ers get smacked by the Green Bay Packers 38-10. Now, obviously, even though the score is that high, and they did get smacked, no doubt about it. The Packers only were up I think it was 24-13 going into the fourth quarter. So the score looks a little bit more than what it was. Well, as far as what's it called there? As far as the difference goes, but the Packers kind of just put them away in the fourth quarter, which is a good sign for the Packers. Jacobs continues to be a solid sign. Aaron Jones, I think he could have done the same thing, honestly, as long as he's healthy. But that's the thing. Jacobs has been more healthy. He had 3 touchdowns. Good for Jacobs. And then there was and the Packers dominated the time of possession 36-23. Brock Purdy, he's a good quarterback. There's no doubt about it. Brandon Allen couldn't really get that offense going. Brock Purdy could, and even though the system benefits Purdy, you still need the right quarterback in that system. So 38-10. So actually it was 24-10 going into the fourth quarter, not 24-13. Okay, let's move on. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Arizona Cardinals 16-6. Arizona continues to perplex me. I can't figure them out, but Seattle's defense is what's been looking good. At least the last 2 weeks, they held Kyler Murray to a 50.1 QBR and 9 total scrambling yards. So running yards, he only got 9. So they really contained Kyler Murray. And because of that, I think that's what hurt Arizona is they couldn't unleash Kyler Murray. And so Seattle pounced on it. Now their offense was solid. But again, JSN, Jackson Smith, Najigba, 77 yards and a touchdown. He continues to blossom this year. The Philadelphia Eagles, 37. The Rams, 20. Saquon Barkley is the story here. I think that's our takeaway. He had 302 total yards with 2 touchdowns, if I did the math right. I think it's 47 on the in the air and 255 on the ground. So, man, that a great signing. And if you're a fan of any team in the NFC, including the Detroit Lions, you have to be looking at Philadelphia. Like, they seem to be hitting their stride. It's sort of almost the opposite of the Lions, where it seems like Philadelphia started some with injuries like Brown and Smith and so on, and now they're getting healthier. And it's kind of the opposite for the Lions, where it seems like they're getting more injuries. So if you're a Philadelphia fan, you have to be comfortable in the spot you are right now. The Baltimore Ravens beat the LA Chargers 30-23. I said going into this game, this would be a measuring stick test for the Chargers, and it kind of was. We know that Quentin Johnson can't really catch a ball. He had like 4 drops at least. And Herbert needs weapons around him. That's what we learned in this game. But on the other side, Henry continues to be the best signing in the offseason with 140 yards on the ground. And Lamar Jackson had a good bounce back game from last week's loss to the Steelers. So those are my Week 12 takeaways. NFL Tuesday takeaways. Let me know in the comments down below. What was your biggest takeaway of Week 12? Do you agree with some of the takes I had? Did you disagree? I welcome both. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much for watching this clip of the Box Score Sports Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X. And we'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.